welcome to Bitstorm, a comedy game design podcast by two guys who know nothing about comedy nor game design. I'm Trevor Scott, and with me as always is Ben Slinger.
Ho, ho, ho! Merry
Christmas!
Yes, we're doing a Christmas episode, because this episode will be released on Christmas, assuming we can get the edit done on time.
Assuming I can get the edit done on time.
Merry Christmas, Trevor. What are you doing right now as people listen to this episode on Christmas Day?
Drinking a Smirnoff Ice.
No, I mean on Christmas Day when people are listening. Not right
on Christmas Day. I'm probably still drinking a Smirnoff Ice.
Oh, yeah, there you go. It's just still have some eggnog in it or something.
Ew.
So we're going to do something slightly different. We're still going to play Click Pitch. But I have put together a list, a random generator with just Christmas words in it. And Trevor, you'll just have regular words.
Yeah, and I've got the regular.
Yeah, I think two Christmas words. It'll just be Christmas. But this'll give us a little bit of Christmas flavor while not necessarily forcing us to make every game just about, I don't know, jumping down chimneys or something. Although that might be one of them. We'll see.
Yes, it may be. Also, this may be a shorter episode today, but it doesn't mean that you're not going to get extra stuff this week because we've got an extra Christmas present coming as long as Ben can get the edit done on the other episode.
Yes.
Our game of the year.
Yeah, so look out for that in a few days if you're listening to this on Christmas Day, which I'm sure you all are because, what else do you have to do? We'll put out our game of the year episode midweek just before the end of the year. So we actually get it out on time.
Fantastic. Let's get going. 3, 2, 1, click.
Let's do it.
Syndrome.
Candle. So, when I hear Syndrome, I immediately think of The Incredibles. The bad guy from The Incredibles.
Exactly where I was going. So
it's a sequel?
It's Christmas.
Or maybe it's a prequel to The Incredibles. It's like a bit of more of an origin. Well, we know the origin story basically of Syndrome, but it's like his teen years, as he's becoming a villain. And
okay, so picture this.
Okay,
it's Christmas morning, and he opens up his presents, and in there is a Mr. Incredible cape.
Okay,
and basically it's sort of maybe 2 months before that scene from The Incredibles. So he's just got the cape, and he's still
the number one fan at this point.
He's still the number one fan at this point,
right? And
so you get to sort of see what happens from this Christmas present that he got, and he's now got a plan on how he's going to
become an Incrediboy. And is this where he's inventing starts? Or is he already a bit of an inventor and now he sort of channels that into being a superhero and after that point, the supervillain? What?
So I'm seeing another scene here where basically it's now Christmas night and he's decided he's going to become Incrediboy.
Yeah.
But there's a power outage, so he's got a candle.
So is there something else to do with the candle, or is you just shoving it in there because we need to use that word?
Shoving it in there because we need to use that word, and I haven't used it yet.
All right, so basically this is a story from Syndrome's point of view, from his childhood, going through him becoming the biggest Mr. Incredible fan, getting shunned and told to go home, buddy, and becoming Syndrome.
So I think it's a nice narrative story that sort of starts off with this wonderful Christmas gift and all this sort of stuff. And then it turns into basically a, inventing sort of game where you can invent some of his tools that he uses to be super, even though he doesn't have powers. Become the super person. Yeah.
I love the idea, and maybe this is going too far forward because we can do some stuff in between, but I love the idea of the final scene being him, he's just built himself up enough that he's bought and built his huge island lair.
Yep.
And he's sitting at the table, and those two big lava walls just close. He's looking right into the camera, and just his hands together in the evil villain pose, and they just close over, and that's the end of the game.
Oh, I'm thinking there's one more scene. that after the lava things close, then you see Omnidroid version 1 step into view.
Right. It's just little.
So
it's just little. It's like the size of a dog.
So basically, it's at that stage where you know what happens.
Yeah, you know what happens next. Exactly. Like it ends. It basically ends off at the point that The Incredibles starts. In a sense. So what sort of gameplay are we thinking? This could go a few different ways. Like there's definitely some strong narrative stuff we could do. The crafting / inventing stuff could be really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
There's obviously some you could hammer it into a third person platformer / action sort of thing if you wanted, but that's less interesting.
To me, I'm more about fleshing out the character, and basically, I like the idea of it being sort of an interactive fiction sort of.
Oh, so even
story.
like a Telltale-esque adventure game, or
probably even a little less interactive than that.
Oh, really?
But yeah, I mean, as in with less QuickTime events and that sort of stuff. Like, I find them very, very annoying.
Right.
I don't think there needs
That's
to really
most
be.
of that game, though.
Yeah, I know. It doesn't really need to be too much in the way of inventory puzzles. I think it's more dialogue and choices that he sort of makes.
Right. So maybe closer to a walking simulator then, in a way.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not. I don't know that we'd. Well, I don't know. Would you make it first person? You could do.
Could do, but you need to have people from Pixar working on this.
Oh yeah, like you need to get the visuals down. You need to get the look down, right? Like you have to look like you're in that world of The Incredibles. Oh, you could have a scene. You could have a scene where he like goes to Edna Mode and tries to get her to make a costume, but she turns it down. Cool. But that'd be a really cool scene. You have scenes where he's basically like stalking the other. Well, because you've got all the stuff with the other superheroes. Well, I guess if we're ending it with Omnidroid V1, then that you don't have all the stuff with him tracking down the other superheroes and them getting killed. But he could be like scouting them out and putting together. I mean, that could be your collectibles. You have to like do missions to scout out and find the secret identities of the other supers.
Oh, that'd be cool. And I think if you find one of them out and it sort of leaks out because of something that you say to someone else, then you have that guy who comes in and repositions them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Into another job somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah. So you get more points if you manage to do it without like actually giving away their identity to the public.
Yeah. I love it.
Yeah, that's really cool. All right. I think let's click again.
3, 2, 1, click.
Partridge.
Lower.
The lower partridge. Lower.
Too low. Lower.
So it's the first day of Christmas. And you're part of a partridge family, but like actual partridges. And it's a game to find out who gets to be the partridge in the pear tree. But you're like lower on the pecking order.
Just
so it's actually
that they
like
drive around in a bus singing songs at each other.
But they're still birds.
Yeah. But that to me is just amazing. Okay. What does a partridge actually look like?
I'm picturing like a dove or
it's like a pigeon.
Yeah.
It's like a pigeon.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's similar to that sort of thing. Bit fatter. So I'm basically thinking like it's a 2D fighter. You just have to make your way up the hierarchy of the pear tree. You're on the lower limbs.
You know what it is?
What?
It's a fighting sort of thing, but it's a music game.
Okay. Is the only song the 12 Days of Christmas?
No. I'm thinking that it's sort of different sort of songs, but it's effectively like a battle mode in which you're battling against all the other ones, trying to be the best musician / bird singer, whatever
/ partridge.
and so the battles that you actually do, they give you sort of power in the game, but then it becomes sort of like a beat 'em up as well. So the better that you do, the more power that you sort of give to yourself, and then you can unleash a special attack if you've been the best.
So wait,
best sort of singer.
What are you picturing the gameplay as then?
So you know how in, like, say, Street Fighter, you've got to input certain moves to do your special attacks? Well, I'm thinking that you have to do well at your singing to be able to gain power to then unleash your special attacks. You've got sort of like your stick to move, or your D-pad to move, so you can jump around, sort of like what we used to do. But then you got your special moves in which you're hitting, like, I don't know, I'm looking at a PS4 controller at the moment, like X square square circle X, and that'll do some sort of musical variation that has to sort of go with a beat that is actually happening,
right?
And then you can unleash that particular power at the other bird. But the longer that the sequence that you're putting in, the more powerful the move. But then you've got to be very careful, because you could get the other one launching an attack at you at the same time.
Right, and you maybe can't block while you're preparing it or something.
Yeah.
Or at least, yeah. Yeah, okay, that's kind of... I can't really get my head around how that would work, but I like the general idea of a singing / music game combined with a 2D fighter, where you're a partridge.
You want to bring anything else to the party? I think you've got to have, like,
the Partridge Party.
Maybe some of the birds are based on the Partridge Family. So you got, like, one that looks like a redhead kid.
I don't actually know anything about the Partridge Family.
Come on, get happy.
All right, let's click again.
Oh, good. Let's click again. Confidence.
Santa's list. I know there's technically 2 words, but it could be about being naughty or nice, and maybe it's like a behavioral, like I don't know. Those sorts of games always end up being too broad, but
high concept.
Yeah, I was just thinking, like, you don't know where you're at on the, like, naughty nice scale, so you have to be confident enough that you've been nice enough, but there are benefits to being naughty or something.
So is it sort of like a game that we've had in the past where you're a kid walking around the house, and you keep on you've got, like, maybe even a meter saying that you want cookies, but the only cookies that you've sort of got are Dad's private stash, and you've got to decide whether if you steal it, then you're going to get more naughty points.
Yeah.
But if you don't, then
it's like, but I cleaned my room yesterday, so I'm confident that I'm still on the nice side of naughty. No, I don't know. I think that's too broad, and we often wave away certain parts of the game by just like, yeah, you can do anything in the world, and the world will be able to judge it in some way. I think we can come with something different about Santa's list,
because it's an amazing AI that chooses that.
I know. We built this amazing middleware that's just an actual simulation of the Earth. We use it for all definitely. Our games.
Yep, it's the same one that can determine whether something is shaped like a dick or not.
Yeah, well. Exactly. All right, so I've got a good idea. I've got something better. Let's use the word confidence in the sense of confidence man, like a con man, and you're trying to get yourself from the naughty side to the nice side of Santa's list. That's like your goal in the game. It's like maybe, it feels like maybe even an RPG or something. Like you could do a Christmassy RPG where you play a con man trying to like that's your end goal, but all this stuff happens on the way as you basically have to like make your way to the North Pole, convince people that you're an elf, get hired by Santa.
pull off the long con.
Yeah, find a magic pen that is the only one that can like modify the list. You can have all sorts of cool stuff in there in this very Christmas themed RPG.
Is this a world that everyone believes in Santa, or is this a world where it turns out that Santa's real, but only if you believe in him?
Yeah, that's an interesting thing, the whole Santa belief thing.
I kind of like the idea that maybe Santa is real up until the moment that you stop believing. And then, for you, he no longer gives you gifts. But it's something that sort of...
How do the parents explain away the fact that their children get gifts that they didn't give them if they've stopped believing?
So what actually happens is Santa emits a pheromone that basically...
Okay, I like it.
That actually has like a mind-altering effect on the parents if they don't believe.
I love this idea that the big twist at the end is that Santa is actually an alien who's been living on Earth for hundreds of years.
And he feeds
on the joy of children.
And it's this confidence man who's
trying
like
to infiltrating it and ends up breaking it wide open. The whole scam. Whereas he's just trying to get presents. He's like one of the only adults that still believes.
And the last couple of years, he's got coal, and he doesn't like that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. He's a mutant. He's a mutant. He's mutated in some way. He doesn't have the gene that makes him susceptible to the pheromone. So that's one of the reasons he's kept believing, because the evidence of Santa has not been hidden from him. Most adults, like 99% of adults, when they reach puberty, the gene kicks in, so the pheromone starts working on them, and all evidence of Santa is hidden from their mind.
So the reason why he is trying to get off the naughty list and onto the nice list is, it turns out,
it's because he's an environmentalist, and all that coal he's getting is terrible for the environment.
No.
Okay.
It turns out that, yes, Santa is real, but it also turns out that the Krampus is also real.
Okay.
And he got a warning last Christmas in which Santa basically said, if you have one more year on the naughty list, the Krampus will come.
Oh, right. I love that there's rules around that. It's like 3 strikes and you're out or something.
Yeah. And so he's got to do something to try and get back onto the nice list. But the only way that he's decided that he can do it is by grifting and making his way to the North Pole to actually, basically cheat his way onto the nice list.
Yeah, exactly. Just the most, the most difficult way possible. He should just take some. He should just take some Panadol for that Krampus, though. Just give it a bit of a massage, and
it's just a really, really deep Krampus, though.
Oh yeah. Just use some deep heat or something. No, I do like this a lot, and I like the idea that Krampus is like another alien, and maybe there's a whole story around that too. Like they used to be lovers or something, Santa and Krampus, but when they came to Earth,
Krampus is maybe Mrs. Claus.
Oh, you're Mister. They could both be men,
or
they could just be like genderless alien creatures. It's fine.
Yeah. But, the story of Mrs. Claus is actually...
Right, okay. He's based on Krampus, but then they got it... I mean, that is based on... Yeah, like Krampus used to be Mrs. Claus. Or what people think of as Mrs. Claus.
Or what people think of is just, the non-binary partner of Santa.
Yeah.
But turns out that Krampus really didn't like the way these bad kids, they kept on going and going.
Right. So basically they came to Earth, they had a philosophical difference on how to generate the most joy. And basically Santa thought they should use the carrot, and Krampus thought they should use the stick to punish those who were killing joy.
Yeah. Because it poisons their well.
Yeah.
Of food.
Yeah, exactly.
So, obviously, the Krampus just wants to stamp out all naughtiness.
Yeah, he punishes the naughtiness, whereas Santa, he just gives warnings by the coal, and that's just a warning against Krampus. Sort of subtly say to those naughty kids, "You better watch it. You better watch out. You better not cry. Krampus is coming, and you're going to die." Krampus.
Mrs. Claus is going to fuck you up.
Mrs. Claus is bringing you down. I love this idea, and and then so your character, your con man or con woman, I guess. If it's an RPG, there's definitely character creation of some kind. I'm picturing a lot of like dialogue puzzles based on different elements. I kind of like the idea of a skill tree that's a lot of it is just different elements of conversation and of different ways to con people, right? And to manipulate people through just talk and actions.
Yeah.
So I don't know if there's even much
kind of
combat
like
in it,
I think your whole thing is that you're trying to, you can talk your way out of any situation.
Yeah.
But to get to the North Pole, it's going to cost you a lot of money. So you got to sort of, be able to talk some, like, kids into maybe helping you out with a con here and there. If you're trying to get through the city, trying to get to the airport or something like that. And you do that grift from the Simpsons with the blind kid and the cake sort of thing.
I don't remember that. Was there a blind kid in a cake?
No, but Bart was had glasses on and had like the dog in front of him had a cake, and someone was coming out of a store, knocked into him. The cake dropped on the ground. The guy offered to pay for the cake, and obviously it wasn't a real cake. They just walked away with all the money.
Right. Okay.
But I like the idea
that's one of the ones you do. Just a little Easter egg there for Simpsons fans.
But it's sort of like being able to pull a whole heap of different, almost Barney like. Barney from How I Met Your Mother, those sort of grifts.
Yeah. Like
well.
It's that standard thing. You've got your playbook of all your grifts, and unlike Barney, who was just trying to manipulate women, it's more for your own purposes of getting money and or getting through,
or free flights, or
and like completing quests. Right, you've got quests and sometimes it's to help people, or and actually maybe there is like a naughty nice mechanic based on how you get through the game and who you've got choices as you do these grifts. You can do them more callously that end up in people getting hurt, or you can do them in a way that, like, yes, you're manipulating people, and yes, you're still stealing, but it's not quite as bad because there's some benefit to them or something. Okay. And I don't know if that affects things down the line. Like, maybe it's just where you find your name on the list in the end, like how far down the naughty list, based on your actions. But yeah,
I kind of like the idea that the start of the game, you've got like the start of the game is actually at Christmas time. You've received your coal.
Yeah.
Like you have like an intro sequence showing that Santa is actually real, and parents losing their mind.
Yeah, you give a bit of the
their
backstory
memories and all that sort of stuff. A little bit of the backstory.
Well, wait. We don't want to give too much of that away up front.
Not too much, but I think I think
you have to. I think that I think you obviously make it clear that Santa is real. Yeah, but that you couch it in the usual like. But as you get older, you stop believing, and so he stops coming for you, sort of thing, or to you.
And then you show like, I'm thinking because it's a con man. I'm actually thinking. Did you see that TV show Constantine that got released?
No.
Okay, so he basically wore like, sort of like a trench coat sort of thing. I'm seeing this guy in like this, collared shirt, tie. Trench coat,
right?
And he gets a present from Santa because he still believes.
Okay,
and that present is the coal, and he gets the warning saying that by December 1st next year you must be on the nice list, or the Krampus will come and kill you.
Okay, it's just laid out,
and basically it's laid out there, and basically he's now trying to work out through. However we decide to do this. I kind of like the idea of it maybe being sort of Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego style puzzles.
Yeah, well, or a bit of that, like tracking down the clues, right? Following one clue to the next clue.
But you've got X number of days to do it.
Oh, so you're actually saying put a time limit on it.
So I'm thinking you could have each sort of place in the world that you can travel to. It's kind of like a roguelike thing as you go.
Are we moving away from the RPG sort of stuff?
Well, so it's an RPG with like randomly built worlds.
Oh, see, I was thinking more of a classic.
Okay,
like telling the story and all sorts of side quests and stuff in each of the places that you go to.
Okay, so it's kind of like a Witcher world.
Yeah,
in which, there's only certain places that you can go in each of these areas that you go to.
Yeah, and you can have some branching ones where you're doing multiple quests at the same time or like dealing with multiple clues, but generally you're going to follow the same path through the sort of the major areas. But
I like the idea of that you're on a time limit.
I like the idea of that you're on a time limit, but I don't think in a game like this it could be a hard limit because you don't want someone putting 40 hours into your game and then like missing it by one day because they took one too many flights back and forth between fucking London and...
Yeah, but I don't think that it's the end. I think you get into the next part in which the Krampus is now chasing you.
Yeah, okay. So it adds something different to the game.
Yeah. So we
probably actually make it actually quite difficult. Like, you're probably not going to get to the North Pole and get it all done by that date, your first playthrough.
No, it's probably going to be like the second or third one that you can get there in like 3 days if you know.
Or like in the New Game Plus or something. If you've got all your skills from the beginning, then you're much more likely to be able to get there on time. But otherwise, it's a planned part of the game, basically, that, after a year of in-game time, the Krampus starts coming after you. And it just adds extra challenges and extra things to each quest.
Yeah. I really like this. It's sort of like you're almost in a... if you stay in a place for too long, then the Krampus will turn up and...
Yeah.
Kind of like It Follows.
Yeah. Krampus
it starts just walking at you.
It's that same thing of It Follows, like, except it's just this beastly-looking Krampus thing walking towards you from a like across the park.
Can you imagine this? You're in like a Skyrim or Fallout style talking scene,
right?
And it's going back and forward, and it just turns over, and you see the distance like this beastly thing, and you can't
get out
like,
of it. You have to like. You're hitting buttons and interrupting them, and that's like messing up your whole con because the whole thing is about like doing the right dialogue options at the right time or something to keep the con going, and you're just like, oh fuck, I gotta cancel this grift. I gotta get the fuck out of here.
All you hear are bells.
Yes. Just like Christmas bells just in the distance. You don't even, it's so subtle initially, you don't even realize you're hearing them until you go, wait a second. And it's particularly troubling when in game it's Christmas time. Like, because you've got a whole, you've got the year or whatever, you're getting close to the end, Krampus is after you, and like you're in a shopping center and Christmas music is playing. So you've got to differentiate the Krampus bells from the music bells. Also, I like the idea that, in those RPGs, you can always like just rest for a while and your character basically stands in one spot staring at nothing for 8 hours. You have to be really careful about doing that. I like the idea of just... Well, because you know how sometimes they'll show almost a time-lapse thing?
Yeah.
So, like, you do that, it's like, all right, I need to rest for 5 hours, and on hour 3, you just see this super fast Krampus, like, coming and you're just like, oh shit, hit escape, like, cancel out of the rest. And you, like, wake up and he's just there right in front of you.
So what actually happens is... it's got like D&D mechanics for that, seeing whether you failed your perception check or not.
Right, yeah.
Because you're asleep, you got your passive perception.
That's part of your skill tree.
So maybe you can actually set up traps during that part.
Oh god, so you just have to go to the point of setting up traps before you go to sleep.
Yeah.
Now we're just making an It Follows game. It's just Krampus themed.
It's just Krampus themed.
Yeah.
Well, that's awesome. Okay.
All right.
Let's click again. 3, 2, 1, click.
Imperfect.
Frosty. now I'm just seeing that it's a like Frosty the Snowman generator
Well,
sort of game in which you can make like all mutant snowmen. They're all imperfect.
yeah, well, and we haven't gone here yet this episode. We're half an hour in, so it's pretty good for us. I was thinking it's like VR and you're literally sculpting the snow and you're trying to make like the perfect snowman, but you've got all sorts of challenges as you're doing it. So they always end up imperfect. So you got things like kids throwing snowballs at you or an unseasonably warm day.
Or you got squirrels who love carrots.
Yeah, exactly. So you got all these things and you can fight off the kids by throwing snowballs back or the squirrels by throwing snowballs at them. But maybe it like uses up your snow or like the snowman is slowly melting or you're getting colder or like there's some sort of balancing act there of
And I think if you want it to look better, then you got to take your mittens off so you can actually
sculpt it a bit better. Yeah.
But the temperature's so cold that your hands, start getting frostbite or something like that. So you can only do that for so long.
Yeah, that's kind of cool.
What I then like is any that you finish become part of your snowman army.
Okay. Well, what this reminds me of now is, did you watch any of the Double Fine Amnesia Fortnite stuff?
No, I didn't.
So for those who aren't aware, every couple of years, Double Fine, the company who's made a bunch of good games, like Psychonauts and Broken Age and stuff, they for 2 weeks, everyone in the company stops working on whatever they're working on. They pitch game ideas, they decide on something they're going to make, they form teams, and they make prototypes of those games over 2 weeks. It's really cool. They document the whole thing. Like, you can see them building the game over the 2 weeks. It's a lot of fun. Anyway, one of the ones they did in this most recent one was one where you are making clay pots, and then...
Yep.
But then it was like a multiplayer sort of brawler game, and based on the shape of the pots, your character would behave differently. It's really cool.
Okay.
They did the physics and stuff and everything. So I'm kind of thinking almost something like that, except you don't directly control the snowman. It's more like maybe a tactics or like a real-time strategy sort of game. So you've got these two modes. You've got the start mode where you've got a certain amount of time to build snowmen. And the other, like, it's a multiplayer thing. Your opponent is doing that at the same time, and maybe you can even like fuck with them. If you're a good shot, you can throw snowballs at them, like they're on the other side of the field or something. But that obviously means you're taking time away from building your
Precious
snowman.
time away from your snowman building.
And then it goes into like a tactics game, and based on how well you've built them or the different types of features you've given them. If you give them more legs. Wait, who gives snowmen legs? Maybe depending on the size of like the bottom snowball that you've built the snowman from, it like moves at different speeds or is harder to knock down or something. Or takes longer to melt. You can have all sorts of powers then while you're playing the tactics part.
So in the tactics part, I think any snowmen that you've finished during the time, they become part of your team.
Yep.
So say you got 5 minutes to build it and you've managed to build 5 in that time. Yep. So a minute per snowman. Yep. You've done really, really well. Whereas Joe has only managed to do like 1.5. So he's got sort of like one dragging itself along by its one arm and one that looks immaculate.
Yeah, but that's the thing, because
going up against your 5 kind of a little bit dodgy, but
presumably because he spent like 4 minutes on that first one, it's stronger. It might have more
5.
more powers in some way, or more skills. Or it could even just be that he's like made it slightly more perfect. Like it's rounder, it's like more symmetrical, and that just adds to its powers.
It's got, more clothes on it, so you've put a better scarf on it, and you've put
totally
like, an amazing amazing hat.
It's like a +2 magic carrot as its nose.
Because the squirrel that you set upon it, got distracted by nuts that that they left along the way.
Yeah, exactly. That was their defense. They just scattered some fucking acorns around. That's cool.
Nice.
I like that.
That's really cool.
Right. Let's click again.
Yep. 3, 2, 1, click.
Stocking.
Suppression.
Oh, God. All right.
God.
Suppression. Stocking suppression. So are the stockings suppressing people in some way or each other, or are we suppressing stockings themselves? Is it some sort of dark anti-Christmas? It's the war on Christmas. Okay. It's a literal war.
So it's the you know how in Futurama they were all afraid of Santa Claus?
Yeah. So
it's basically kids in that sort of universe in the year 3000, and they're all afraid of like the robot Santa Claus.
Yep.
So everyone still has the tradition of, you know, hanging up stockings.
Yep.
But the idea is that you also, you know, set traps.
Right. And you fill those stockings with weapons.
Yeah.
To fight off Santa. Okay. Yeah. I kind of like the idea of it's like a Christmas-based cover shooter with actual weapons. And so that's where the suppression comes in. Like, little Timmy needs to lay down cover fire so Jessica can storm forward and shove a grenade down the back of Santa's pants.
Yeah. So I'm thinking that you play a lot of different kids.
Okay.
You don't just play in the one place. Basically, you're playing who's ever defending against Santa and his elves this time. Yeah,
well, I like the idea of it almost as this narrative shooter, like a very Call of Duty campaign, where it's these set pieces, and you're different kids all around the world. So you've got these very different environments and different weapons and different techniques that you have to use. And different stories that are told, right? Between the kids, you learn a little bit about each family or whatever, and there's some really heartwarming moments as the kids join their parents in fighting off Santa Claus.
With a flamethrower.
With a flamethrower. It's literally heartwarming.
I'm looking forward to seeing the Australian one where, you know, Santa comes down with board shorts and...
Totally. Yeah, exactly. Like Santa dresses the part for every country he visits.
So I'm liking the idea that, you know, depending on the house, you know, you've got elves basically breaking into...
Yeah, that's it. You need to have the minions and stuff. So you're fighting off elves and reindeer and snowmen and fucking gingerbread men and other Christmas-based...
You got Rudolph with his
nose so bright,
literally like a you know, the bright red nose is actually like a laser.
Yeah, totally. That's where I was going to go to. You just like
either laser or lightsaber sort of thing. It just cuts through things.
Like this just grows longer and then it's a lightsaber.
It just cuts this massive hole. I like the idea that, you know, these kids, there is actually such a thing as permadeath.
Okay.
So literally on each wave that you're playing,
you
know, you're trying to take out as much as you can, and if you weaken Santa enough, then
it like affects,
you're going to win.
It affects the next. Well, maybe it affects the next one. Maybe it's oh God, this could be really sort of depressing, but maybe you like it. It's incredibly difficult to beat Santa with like the first kid. They're definitely going to die. But depending on how well you do, it's a bit easier for each subsequent mission as Santa makes his way around the world. And so you could even randomly, maybe it is these set pieces and stuff, but they're played out in random order. And so there's a bit of procedural generation around the difficulty and stuff. Or like they play slightly different every time, kind of a Left 4 Dead-ish sort of thing where things can change a bit. So it's actually a replayable, because then you could do it multiplayer, actually. You play different members of the family. That could be really cool, actually. You're playing out these different scenarios, and there's still a bit of narrative stuff in there, but it's all about the overall campaign of defeating Santa this Christmas. And so it's designed to be played over and over again, and you'll get the different narrative sections and set pieces each time, and they'll be a little bit different every time, you know.
Kid 1, you realize that the best way to actually play this is you send in Dad with like a hand grenade that he just pulls the pin and just runs at Santa
like
and
suicide
just
bombs.
Wraps his arm around. Yeah, pretty much wraps his arms around him, and you do like a crap load of damage to Santa.
Right.
So it means that the next people are going to actually be able to kill him.
Yeah.
But it's really, really like visceral, and you know, you see just the kid's face and just the shock on his face.
As his dad just
blood just splatters on.
Yeah, it's horrifying.
Yeah, it's just
war. It's the literal war on Christmas.
And I like the idea that maybe it turns out that later on in the game, little Timmy from that first level actually survived and
becomes the new Santa.
It turns out that was like many, many years ago, and he realized, you know, we need to set something in motion to defeat Santa, and so he pulled together like this massive plan across across the world.
Just on the replayability stuff as well, I like the idea that maybe each different set piece Santa has different weaknesses based on where you are, but because you don't know the order that they're going to come in, you can't necessarily use the same strategy every time. So like, Dad committing suicide with a grenade is going to like destroy, you know, or damage his sleigh so he can't fly as well or something. But, you know, if the next one that comes up is, I don't know, Africa, like he doesn't need to fly as much or something, you know, do you know what I mean? You have to, there are techniques that you can do to cripple certain parts of Santa for the next wave and the next level, but it'll be more and less effective, based on the order that they come in and stuff. So it is, again, a little bit different. You have to think on your toes a bit more each time.
What I kind of like as well is maybe it turns out that each country has like a different Santa. But bear with me, I know that this is going sort of against what you were saying. Okay. Basically, each one that you take out of the network diminishes
like
Santa's
weakens
power.
The overall Santa network.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Well, maybe it comes in little batches then. Like you're working on the sort of Western world version of Santa. Are you saying that they're the same type of Santa, or is it like a cultural thing around?
Well, maybe it could be like the Terminator in that you've got a new upgraded Santa that comes a little bit later.
Right.
Kind of like Liquid Metal Santa or
Liquid Metal Santa. That's definitely the title of this episode. Fuck yes. All right. So as you actually destroy each, okay, that's better. Well, I don't know. Maybe you could do it both ways, but because I do like some of the stuff around weakening Santa for later levels, but I do like the idea that each Santa you come across in each level is upgraded in different ways and more powerful. Because that's also fun.
You just have it that, you know, the American Santa, to take him out, you know, he's the one Santa, but the one in Australia is actually a totally different Santa. Right. So anything that you've done to it, you need to do in each country.
Okay. And then you could bring in some like cultural diversity around the Christmas myth, and whoever leaves the presents. I really like that.
Cool.
All right. Well, I think we'll end the episode on destroying Santa over and over again.
And also Liquid Metal Santa, which is just awesome.
That's really cool. Let's end it there. Merry Christmas, everybody. I hope you stuffed yourself full of food and enjoyed your family. Enjoy your food, stuff yourself full of family.
What did they eat their family? Are they cannibals now?
Well, how else are you going to get up your strength to protect against Santa?
Just send Dad in with a hand grenade.
Totally. If you want to find us on some lines, we're on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram as Bitstormcast. Am I even going to bother mentioning the Facebook group? I guess I will. I did set a reminder to do the listener click pitch, and then I still didn't. Facebook.com/group/Bitstorm. Go back about 3 months worth of posts, and you'll see when we did do a few listener click pitches, and that was kind of fun. We're also on Podchaser at podchaser.com/Bitstorm, so leave us a review or a rating there.
You can check us out on iTunes, where you can also rate, review, and subscribe. Got a website, bitstormcast.com. I'd like to thank all the folks out there at the AGPN, the Australasian Gaming Podcast Network. They've been really supportive of us and have been throwing our name around quite a bit lately, especially a special big thanks to Reset and Inconsolables, because they're awesome peoples. We'd finally like to thank Kuradust for the song Mount Defiance off of the album Containment Failure.
I'm Ben Slinger.
I'm Trevor Scott.
You better watch out. You better not cry. You better watch out, I'm telling you why. Mrs. Claus is bringing you down.